We're live.
We are live. I'm so excited. All right, about to get this party started. So our attendees are starting to join. I see them. It's getting fun. Yes. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and I'm so excited that you guys are here to join us for this amazing, amazing, amazing webinar. I am Ozioma of Burn Bright, and today I am joined by
Nicole Schneider from Global NLP.
That's right, Nicole Schneider from Global NLP. And you are joining what's known as the Burn Bright Powerhouse Jam Session. And you may be wondering, what exactly is a Powerhouse Jam Session? A Powerhouse Jam Session is a fun, dynamic training session where I and all of you get to learn from one of the foremost experts in a way that is just going to open you up and just excite you and entertain you. And so the reason why I wanted to create this is because I felt that I know so many amazing people who have knowledge to share, and I wanted to be able to create a dynamic learning experience where we both could engage in dynamic conversations and walk away transformed. And so this particular jam session is exciting for me because I get to sit down, virtually, with someone who I've learned a great deal from, Nicole Schneider. So I'm going to have Nicole introduce herself and a little bit of what she does, and then we're going to get into the overall flow and format of this evening's experience. But actually, before that, I did want to just honor the passing of Maya Angelou, someone who is just an amazing spirit, an amazing human being, set goals and reached them, and just impacted so many of the ways in which we move forward with our own careers, our own livelihood. I just think she's just an amazing human being. So just wanted to put some energy out there for Maya Angelou. And with that, turning it over to Nicole to introduce herself.
Well, I'm Nicole Schneider. I'm happy to see that some of my former students and future students are actually here as well. I am one of the owners and one of the senior trainers of Global NLP Training. And my company provides NLP training, and we certify life coaches. People fly in from all over the world to the seminars, but my trainings run in Miami, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Amsterdam, which is where I'm from. So super excited to be here and talk about some goals.
Awesome. Yes, yes, yes. And you know, for those of you who have never experienced me, I'm going to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Ozioma of Burn Bright. I run an international consultancy called Burn Bright International, LLC, and I focus on helping individuals, businesses, and communities reach their full potential. And in 2010, I had the pleasure of experiencing Nicole in action. After having, trained and coached people all around the world, I felt that there was another level that I wanted to engage in terms of how I supported my own clients. And I had learned about this thing called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and I wanted to get in on it. And I wanted to go to one of the best training facilities to do that, because I really believe that when it comes to moving and evolving your own skill set, you have to go for the best. And so I typed into Google NLP training, and Nicole's training popped up, and it was an amazing experience where I believe I was in Florida for about a month getting intensely trained in some of the techniques that have radically transformed my own business as well as my life. And so today what we're going to do is engage in one particular conversation that is central to NLP, which is all around this thing called well-formed outcomes, also known as goals. And so we're going to dive deeply into a conversation, but first let me lay the foundation for what you're going to experience during this Powerhouse webinar training. The format is really a dynamic, immersive one, and so you have the chat box there, so really take advantage to type in any questions you may have, introduce yourself, connect with the other participants. We want this to be as engaging as possible. Also, we want you to stay until the very end. Nicole has so graciously shared one resource that's going to empower you, and it's a gift. We always give gifts during the Powerhouse webinar, but we want to make sure that you stay until the end, and that's when we're going to reveal that gift. So that's going to be pretty exciting. The other piece is that the way in which this experience is going to go is I'm going to ask questions, Nicole's going to ask questions, and then we're going to open it up to you to ask questions. So make sure that if there's anything that really speaks to you, that you type it into the chat room during the time that you're hearing it, because at the end, we're going to scroll through and start to engage you with the questions and make sure that we answer your questions. So please type them away as we progress. Finally, make sure you grab a pen and paper. There's going to be a lot of powerful, dynamic information that you don't want to miss. We always make these webinar Powerhouse Jam sessions as informative as possible. And the way that we're going to do that is through a conversation. And so without further ado, we're going to get started. It's probably going to run about an hour. So hopefully you can be in that zone of just being not distracted. So if you have other windows open on your computer, you want to close those down and you want to dig in. So first question, do you want to start, Nicole, or do you want me to get into it?
Okay, I'll start with a question for you. So you have learned goal setting with NLP, and you've done a tremendous amount of work of your own in perfecting your own system, and been working with clients setting goals to reach their dreams. And I was wondering, a question for you is, where would you be yourself if you didn't know how to set goals really well?
Oh my goodness. If I did not know how to set goals, I'd probably be in a corner crying. No, I'd probably, to me, goal setting is the nucleus of any transformation. If you go, it's kind of like that I think it's a famous quote that says, if you don't know where you're going, you can end up anywhere. Well, so many of us have a destination that we know we want to reach, whether it's a financial goal, whether it's a health goal, whether it's a familial goal, the kind of family we want to cultivate. And without having set those goals in my own life for the things that I really wanted, I honestly believe that my life would not be as fulfilled as it is today. Every year, I engage in what's known as the creation of a master plan. And I do that for my life, and I also do that for my business. And in fact, many people come to me to help them create these dynamic, juicy, inspired plans, because they know that when you actually are able to identify that narrative, that story, that goal, that you, through your own invention and creativity, as well as collaboration with others, can help to create, there's nothing more dynamic and powerful than that. And so I guess to answer your question in short form, I would say that if I didn't learn and perfect a method of goal setting based primarily in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, I don't believe that my life would be as fulfilling and as dynamic as it is, and I don't believe that I would be able to support my clients and also being able to visualize and develop and set goals and then go out and execute them. Is there anything you want to add to that? Where would you be without learning how to set proper goals?
Oh boy. You know what? The first, I would say, half of my life, I never really set clear goals. I could state really well what I wanted and stuff like that, but I never really aligned it with what kind of evolution do I want to be in as a person, and what do I want to, how can I lead a life that matters in some ways, right? And so it wasn't through some disasters actually striking in my life where I really have to say, you know what, there's still a big life for me to lead, and what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And so I started to set very clear goals to be able to place myself in a position as to, well, let's pretend I've already have completed this goal, right? What would I then want my life to really look like? And what do I want to put out there? Who do I want to be with? Who do I want to work with? What kind of message do I want to give? And and I look at myself as although I'm many different things, a business owner, a coach, a daughter, what I really feel I am is a teacher. And what is it that I want to teach? And through goal setting, I basically aligned my life. I created my own business, the way that I work with my amazing team all around the world. Through clear goal setting, I was really be able to create not only a great life for myself, but also be able to create a company where a group of people gather 8 times around the year and have this amazing learning experience by which they completely change their life. So, and that would have never have happened if I didn't set goals.
I love what you just said at the end there, that being able to set those clear goals allowed you to create an experience that transformed your life, but also empowered you to be able to transform the lives of others.
Yeah.
And so at the heart of that, why we're here this evening is because we want all of you watching live as well as in the replay to really think about, how are you setting your goals? Because a lot of it is really just almost like by default. And when you live a life by default, you are not truly maximizing and experiencing all of this beautiful, powerful, dynamic life or business or community that you exist in has to offer. So my question to you, Nicole, is why is it so important to set clear goals on the path of making an idea or a dream become reality? You've talked about how that is for yourself, but what's really at stake here?
Right. Well, it's I remember when I went to school, I always felt that if I didn't prepare to actually reach a perfect score, then even though I studied 100% the material and I connected to that material, if I hadn't done that for 100%, I would get a 70%, right? And with goals, since we're dealing with dreams here, that's the most important thing you'll ever have, right? And so you gotta go 100% for your goals. And if you don't quite know what you want and what specifically that really sounds, looks, and feels like, then it becomes extremely hard to accomplish. And so you want to get from A, the place where you're not making your dream come true, to B, where you are making your dream come true. And you need to really be clear as to what is B, how do I get there, what do I need to do, what are the specific steps to get there, how does that influence all the different areas of my life. And if you don't have clarity on that, it's kind of like hoping to leave your house and hope that you get to the right destination. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to get that plane ticket to the city that you want to be in. Otherwise, you're just never going to get there. Simply speaking. We
have some people in the chat room talking about or asking the question, sounds like we're talking about clarity. Yes, we're talking about clarity. But the way in which NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, approaches getting that clarity is a little bit different. And we're going to be getting into that because Nicole is going to take us through one of those quintessential experiences. And she's going to share how is goal setting with NLP different than just saying, okay, this is what I want. No, it's about really creating a textured experience around what it is you want. So what we want to do now is we want to actually poll you. We want to, now that we have a great amount of people joining the jam session, we want to start a poll. You know, what's the most difficult thing about setting goals for you? You know, is it about knowing what you want in the first place? Is it about staying with one goal at a time? Or is it really about feeling like what you want is unrealistic? Like, what is the most difficult thing for you about setting goals? So please, you know, vote. Let us know what your thoughts are. We really, really want to know what you feel about that. And as you're starting to take the poll and answer those questions, again, we are going to keep that poll open while we move on to the next question. Nicole, do you want to pose the next question?
Yeah, I actually do. So there's so many different areas in our lives that we need to be the project manager of, right? And we're dealing with family, friends, work, money, fun, our health, all these different things that we need to take care of. And also in all these different areas, we would be setting goals. Now, my question to you is, sometimes when you set a goal in one of these departments, let's say it's a very important career goal, then your family may suffer. Maybe late nights, that's not always the best thing for your health. Could take away from your free time to do fun stuff in the park, etc. And how do you personally set goals, and how do you do that with your clients in order to navigate all these different areas of your life?
Okay. Well, it's interesting because I really believe that when you're setting a goal, it's not like you're setting a goal in one area. You have goals, as many goals as you do as aspects of yourself. And we're all multidimensional beings. We have so many different facets of who we are, almost like beautiful diamonds is what I like to equate it to. And when we're in the process of setting goals in particular areas, I think it's really important that we know what matters to us. So here's an example. Like all the areas you talked about finances, you talked about your health, you talked about your relationships, romance. There are all these different dynamics that also need to kind of be balanced. But more than them even being balanced, they need to be in harmony with each other. So one particular strategy that I work with my clients around is what I call helping them hone and develop their aim, almost like a target. An aim, actually, to me, stands for always in motion. As it relates to your health or the goal you have for your health, what do you need to always keep in motion, aim, in order to make that happen? And you should have an aim or aims in each area that matters to you. So what do you need to always keep in motion as it relates to your financial goals? What do you need to always keep in motion as it relates to your family? What do you need to always keep in motion as it relates to your professional development? Once you start to get clear on those the success criteria for each of those different goals, then now what you have is a palette of what I like to call a palette of possibility or an inspired action plan. Because now you're very clear on, if I am making sure that I'm checking off the box and addressing these areas in these particular goals that I have, I know I'm at least succeeding. And even if you just say, you know what, one particular area in each of those areas that you call, your goal set, you'll be doing gangbusters. So that's something that I always try to get my my clients, and also within myself. There's other techniques I use, but the always in motion, developing your aim, allows you to realize you can't just set it and forget it. Even if you've accomplished one particular goal, there's going to be a new goal, a new trajectory, a new dream that emerges as a result of that. So you have to be very clear about what you're committed to always keeping in motion, and making sure on a consistent basis that you're checking in and tapping in and keeping that light of awareness on the things that matter. Great. All right. So we're getting some. So Vanessa already is asking, can you give an example, please? I'm not exact. I feel like I gave an example of that, but for example, here as it relates to the development of new products and services for my company. There's something that, as it relates to what I always need to keep in motion, I need to keep aware of the competitive landscape. I need to know what are people doing as it relates to new online products and services. And as long as I'm keeping my finger on the pulse there, that's going to allow me to develop and to be connected to what the new developments as it relates in the industry that I am in, which is educational products and services and training. So again, that's an example of something that you always need to keep in motion. With health, it could be as simple as, in order for me to reach my health goals, I need to work out 3 times a week. So guess what? Got to keep the health always in motion. Got to keep the workout schedule on a continual regimen. That's a simple example. You can't slide on that if you have a health goal of losing, 50 pounds or whatever that is. And I know for you, Nicole, you also had a transformation as it relates to your health. You want to kind of share in terms of some of the things you needed to always keep in motion to reach that goal?
Yeah, what I had to do is, I was kind of like knocked down by life. I became both physically and mentally ill, which took me about a good 2.5 to 3 years to fight out of. And in that sense, what I realized in building Nikki 2.0 with her new job and her new life, all these different departments of my life needed to be really managed incredibly well, because if I didn't, then I would either become either unhealthy again or very, very unhappy. And so what I really tapped into is, what are my personal values? Not necessarily my conscious values, but the ones that are really deep inside of me, right? And one of the NLP techniques that I actually teach is, what are those deep unconscious values that you have? And that became a lifeline for me to understand what is a life for me that makes me to be able to stay in movement, because I believe that if you sit still, you become rigid, much like your body becomes rigid if you sit still for too long. But in managing all these areas, I realized that if I spend all of my time on my career, let's say, my health will end up suffering, right? If I spend too much time in hanging out with my friends, then all the other areas won't be working. And family is incredibly important to me, and I will do nearly everything for my friends. And even despite work going on. But I realize if I don't honor my values and how they relate to all these different departments in my life, then I am not functioning optimally. So one of the things that I really need to do is, I lost, for instance, 100 pounds of weight in the process. I have been overweight or obese most of my life, and I became physically very, very unhealthy. Now, that means even if there's a training going on, Nikki needs to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning and make sure that at least 2-3 times a week she's going to that gym, right? Or if Nikki kind of falls off the wagon with her food during a training, which also happens if I'm really honest, I need to get back on program as soon as I get home. And as soon as I get home, I need to see my friends and family. And I have to call everyone during a training if they're having a birthday. So I actually really find myself that it's really important that I always want to travel towards center, towards balance. And even though you have a goal, you can't truly meet and sustain and maintain a goal to keep it alive for life if you're neglecting 70% of your life where it comes to how you should be leading it. And particularly in my job, I really, what I really want to be is I want to be an inspiration to other people. And the only way that I can do that if I honor that with every area of my life. That means that I'm not always at work. That means that I have other priorities that I'm really well balanced, taken care of. Otherwise, the tools that I'm teaching to others become really invalid. I need to show that particular example, if that makes sense at all.
No, it does. It does. And we actually just closed the poll, and what we got here was that a little bit more than half of you said that staying with one goal at a time is the most difficult aspect of setting goals for you. Now, there's something to be said about that, right? Because we are fluid, moving human beings, and sometimes you come up with one goal and you're like, wait, but I want that, but I want that, but wait, and now I want this. And it sometimes gets so frustrating because you want to do it all at the same time. And I think to that effect, if you just identify what is the most essential initiative, the essential objective that I need to engage in order to reach my full potential, or in order to fully succeed in a way that is meaningful to my livelihood, to what matters to me. If you keep asking yourself that question, you will find that a lot of the things that are just these transitory, oh, this, then that, will fall away, and what will rise in your mind, in your consciousness, is the thing that really matters. The challenge is we're not asking ourselves that question that allows that choice to be made elegantly and on a consistent basis. We just kind of say, if I want it, it must be done. That's not what we're talking about here. And so to that extent, I really would love, we're going to depart from our usual script here, and I just want Nicole to talk a little bit about what is NLP for those who have lately joined us, and also how does NLP go about goal setting? Because I know that that's what the majority of people are here to uncover and explore. Just share with us about that.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is if you put, let's say, 20 NLP practitioners in a room, you tend to get 20 different answers as to what is NLP. But what I can explain to you, what is NLP to me personally, and it kind of originates as to how NLP was created, right? And they found these people, these really brilliant people that, for instance, would be really good at asking questions and getting information out of people, or really understanding what is the language of persuasion, although I don't like that word. What is the language of inspiration? How does someone overcome a phobia? How does someone switch from a negative emotional state to a positive one? How does someone set goals? What is somebody's internal strategy to do something? How to motivate themselves? And they studied all of these people. And what came out of that is, and this is still being done today, like I consider myself one of the developers of NLP, because NLP is continuously developed, is what is the psychology of what works? And out of that came a whole series of techniques, language patterns that can actually very easily be learned. The basic course is only 7 days, and then the full training is like 16 days, is that you can teach someone to not only just apply that to their own life, but also that of other people. And so NLP really works from the how do you think? How does your unconscious mind work? Because unconsciously we're run. Like, for instance, if you're losing weight, we all know eat better, work out more. But it is usually our unconscious program that at 9 p.m. and we're sitting on the couch with a bag of Doritos, and 5 minutes later we're like, who ate that thing? It's us, because we just unconsciously slipped away from all of our goals, right? And so NLP operates in that realm of how do you change the unconscious processes in your mind, how do you change your thinking, how do you quickly switch from one emotion to the other, how do you do all that? And all these techniques and methods came out of that, and they kind of gel together to a point that you can even start combining different techniques to get even more specialized results. Like, for instance, I work also with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder or dealing with intense grief, and that's all done by combining the basic tools and a lot of practice, obviously, because I don't think very little of things are achieved by a lot of learning and a lot of practice in terms of mastery. So that's kind of like what NLP has the potential to do. And I think that one of the things that it all begins and ends with is setting goals. If you want to attain something, you've got to set a goal, because that helps you connect to that unconscious part of yourself that you need to tap into for the future in order to do what it takes, you know. And that can be a lot of work sometimes, but not if you set up your mind accordingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about setting up our mind. Like, I know for me, you know, the base premise around the work that I do with Burn Bright is really about that each of us have stories, unconscious stories that we have that's actually empowering or disempowering us. And most people are using the disempowering story and allowing that to be the default that they're living into. And what I work with clients to do is to help them identify that powerful, dynamic, beautiful, bright future, whether it's for their business, for their life, for their community, that then they can start to move into through habit, through actions that then become natural. So NLP has a very interesting way of supporting people in being able to set that goal. And of course, I could share it myself, but I brought you on because I want you to share with us the juicy way in which you can actually go and set what's known as a well-formed outcome.
Right. I had to simplify the process a little bit because this is usually actually taught somewhere in the middle of the basic course. So I had to condense it a little bit because we also have a little bit of a time constraint. But I think one thing that's really important to understand is that scientific evidence of proven. In fact, I read an article about that this morning. Is that the areas of the brain that kind of, let's say, light up um, for when people set goals and talk about what they are going to do in order to create a better future, is they actually found that that part of the brain lights up that deals with happiness, with feeling good. And they also did then another study is what part of the brain lights up when you're talking about the limitations, how much you work, how tired you are, how overwhelming things are, how your day-to-day routine is something you just have to go through. Whole other areas of the brain light up, basically the ones that are deal with like the mental conflicts and anxiety and stuff like that. So much like any emotion, any thought we have, we can become addicted to. That's why I know when you teach people how to set goals really, really well and they start reaching them, they become goal addicts. They don't want to talk anymore about the limitations. They don't want to talk about what they can't do. They want to talk about what they can do.
Exactly. Get it done.
Get it done. Just get started, because the longer you complain, the longer that you are going to sit there. And you know about me, I can sometimes be very direct, but when somebody is still harping about a problem 3 months later and they have done nothing to solve it, I at some point get really tired talking to people. So how do you then set goals? Well, I think one of the most important things to understand about a goal is that we learn a lot of goals in like the business world, and you need to do it specific and measurable and certain time frame. It's a great way of goal setting. Works only for some personality types, but it's kind of conscious way of goal setting. And that's more like, I want. And goal setting needs to be way deeper than that. It needs to come from a very motivational place. It needs to come from something that's deeply embedded inside your whole being, inside your unconscious mind. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you need to know specifically what you want. Now, it can't be something big like I want to be happy. That's kind of vague. You need to be something, what specifically is it that you want, let's say. So let's say 3 months from now, I want to have starting my own business. I will have incorporated. I will get 1 or 2 clients. Let's say something like that, right? And so what do you want specifically? It also has to be stated in a positive term. Not being an expert, again, about what you don't want. Ever notice that a lot of people are experts at what they don't want, and when you ask them what is it that you do want, they can't answer you. They just repeat what they don't want. This needs to be about what is it that you want. Now, an important part is of really reaching goals effectively is that you can almost step into the shoes of the future you. Like, let's say I would step into a time machine and I would get out of this time machine 3 months from now. You really need to associate into that place. What is it that you would see, hear, and feel at that moment in time? You can even close your eyes and who would be there with you? What areas of your life would be affected? How would you feel? How does it impact your children? Where will you be? With who will you be? And at what specific time will you be there? So that's the second step. That's really important. The third thing is you need to know specifically as to how this well-formed outcome, this goal, will change your life. What areas of your life will be affected, and in what way specifically? How will it improve? How will it even maybe inspire others? How amazing would it be if other people stepped on that bandwagon? Then a question that you need to ask, the 4 questions that you need to ask yourself. Is it worth it, what you need to do to get there? And it's okay if you're scared. It's okay if it's a big commitment and you need to be brave. You know what? I always say the best goals are the ones where other people say, not sure if you can do it. The best goals that you can reach is you're a little bit scared. I'm scared all the time. You know, I'm scared all the time, but I need to be brave. And the best goals that I reach are the ones that I'm most afraid of reaching. They seem very impossible, right? So is it worth it? Is it worth it to actually really do the work that you need to do this to get this goal? And how are you going to get there? What specific steps are you going to take? Now, here's an interesting thought. When I learned goal setting, when I used to be a project manager, I would reason from present day and what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I'm going to do the day after, and the day after that. What if you actually set your goals the other way around? What if you stepped into the future of already having reached the goal and then go, what did I do right before that? Right? What did I see, hear, and feel? What did I do at that moment in time? And then you step another step back and you go, what did I do before that step? Right? And so instead of reasoning from the present into the future is what you're going to do, you actually step into the future and reason back towards present time as to what you need to do. Because the likeliness that you actually get from A to B in factually doing the work to reach your goal, if you actually reason from already having reached the goal going backwards, you know much better what specific steps to actually take. Instead of like, oops, wrong direction again. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of people get overwhelmed that they don't know how to start a goal, is because they're trying to figure it out in the present. You really need to figure it out going backwards. And then, of course, the most important thing to really attach to in starting a goal, what is the first step? And then go do it. Yeah? I also, and this is not a typical NLP thing, but this is, I talk to a lot of people about goals, right? And I find a lot of people, let's say, they look at the mountain as a whole. Oh my God, it's so much work. I don't even know where to start because there's so many things to do, and they get overwhelmed. I think once you've set the goal and you determined the steps, the best thing to do is to focus on one step at a time. It becomes a mini goal in itself. If I start worrying about that thing that I need to do 3 months from now, or all those things in between, I will hit overwhelm. I will get goal burnout, and I will not reach my goal. But if I focus with 100% on this specific step, but maintain open to receive new information, because the world keeps changing, you need to mitigate risks. But if you focus on one step at a time, and certainly for my own 100 pounds of weight loss, if I would have focused on that 100 pounds still to go, it would be really overwhelming. But I focused on 1 pound at the time. And then it became a routine, it became a normal process, and yes, I plateaued and I had to fix that and all that stuff. But that became much easier to do than stare at that whole big mountain all on its own, if that makes sense at all. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like, in very short terms, how do you set a well-formed outcome?
Perfect. I love it. I just feel like that piece was the gem. There have been many gems throughout this whole jam session, but that is one of the gems, being able to identify and connect to that version of yourself, or that version of the reality that you want to bring into your present reality. I call it your mission or your errand. Like, at the end of the day, if you really understood that there is a version of yourself or a version of your business that is seeking to become real. And if you can tap into that, that's part of the work that, when I work with someone for a Burn Bright session, it's really about you identifying who is that version of me that I am truly meant to be, and get it crystal clear in thought, in feeling, in action, all of that as a well-formed outcome. And then the question is, who do I need to be, or what do I need to do in order to get there? And then you work from that vision. The vision and the energy is what pulls you towards it. But it comes from being clear about what it is that you're out to cause. And then being able to connect to the motivational elements of the actions that are essential to reach it. So we don't have enough time in this session to talk about the language of motivation, but that's also key. Being able to speak about the actions in a way that keeps it alive and really inspires and ignites you. But we're about to go into Q&A, and there's some amazing questions that people are asking. But I did want us to, let's do you ask me one more question, and then I'll ask you one more question, and then we're going to open it up. So you can look at the questions you have for me and ask the one that you feel is the most important. And then we're going to open it up to the audience, because there are tons of amazing questions that people have already posed.
Yeah, a lot of coaching that I do is really about people wanting to reach goals, and then they're not making it, and they come to me, and they talk about, I'm afraid, and they give me a list of everything that they're afraid of, or I have a tendency to procrastinate. And I'm just wondering what your take on that is, and what you do with your clients to move them through that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I found that fear, procrastination, all these elements of what we can call sabotage is just part and parcel of the experience. And I actually believe that by becoming friends and familiar with it, it actually helps to mitigate what I mean when I say mitigate. It lessens the severity of the way in which those actions or those belief systems can affect you. So in simple terms, it means this. You're gonna be afraid, and the bigger your goals are, the more fearful you're gonna be. What you need to do, and what we all need to do, is to become the kinds of people that don't allow the fear and the procrastination to keep us from moving forward. And the way that we do that is falling in love with the dream. When you love something, when you care about something, you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. So I always say to the person who is allowing procrastination or allowing fear to get in the way of what they truly want, it's usually because you haven't connected to your why. You haven't fallen in love deep enough. You haven't found that motivation, that connection, that deep reason for why it has to happen. And you also haven't connected to your wealth of resources. When you begin to trust that there is someone out there that can help you move forward, that can help you move out of that stuck place, or that you can find an aspect inside of yourself that can help you get out of that stuck place. So I really believe that procrastination, the fear, all of those things happen as a result of us not really knowing that we have what it takes. And that comes through the process of developing confidence. But first and foremost, it really comes from really understanding and believing that there is something that needs to be done, and then developing the passion to want to see it come to life and realize that you play a role in making that thing happen. And so when you sit there with that goal that you know is important to you, the first step is really, like we talked about, getting very clear on what is that reality, and then why does that reality have to become a reality. And when you start to connect to that, it will spark you, it will ignite you, it will keep you motivated. And all you need to do is keep tapping in, keep dialing in to that desire and connecting to that energy that gets created and born from that desire. Because again, when you have that goal, what you're really doing is saying, there's something inside of me that I want to see made real. And it can happen the more you allow yourself to stretch and move beyond your comfort zone. And the way you do that is keeping it alive in language. Now, before Burn Bright was a reality, there was a time when I was working as a vice president in corporate America, and it seemed to other people on the outside that that's what I was doing. But in language, I kept talking about this thing called Burn Bright. Every time I kept talking about this idea called a company that really empowers people in this unique way. And some people may have thought I was crazy, but by keeping it alive through language and always speaking it into existence was how I kept the motivation going and how I was able to overcome the fear, because I just kept on talking about it. I kept on writing about it. I kept on finding ways to make it a part of my life, even though the financial reality hadn't been born yet. And all these other things hadn't been created yet. But it was through language and through belief that I continued to make it real until suddenly, years later, people now see what I was visioning in 2006. And it's a beautiful process and it's a beautiful experience when you start to develop into that person and you start to create that thing that you've always envisioned. And it's done first through visualizing what it can be and then being able to keep it alive in your mind's eye, but also through the language you continuously speak. So I really hope that this is helping you and that you're finding ways in which the goals that you're setting for yourself can also be sparked through language. And so now I'm going to ask the final question to Nicole before we open it up to the entire audience for your questions. What were some goals you had to set in order to have the kind of company that you have right now? What were some of the specific goals that you had to set in order to run and to, well, first to create and then to consistently run your business?
Yeah, I'm a goal junkie, basically. So there's been so many of them at this point. But my first goal is I was very sick, and one night I was pretty much, I was having my, what I call my eat, pray, love moment, where I was literally collapsed in the bathroom. And I really realized at that moment in time that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing in life, and I didn't quite know what I wanted. Like, I'm gonna be honest, it was not like the universe came down and handed me my plan. It wasn't like that at all. But what spoke to me is that I wanted to lead a life that matters, and I wasn't doing that. Even though I've been told my whole life there was something special about me, blah, 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 I saw that as blah, blah, blah. And so when I collapsed, I realized that if I wanted to become better, I needed to really fix my health, right? And so that took a number of years. But I also realized I could never go back to Nikki 1.0, right? So I wanted to create a business where I would be working with people that share the same values that I do, the same dream, the same passion for change, where I would meet clients that would be willing to go on this immersion program because they want to lead better lives and they want to help other people change their lives. What better clients can you get than that? Right? People that want to show up for something really, truly special. For people who want to become better parents or want to become coaches or want to inspire others or just want to fix their own stuff, get more out of life. And in that process of working very hard to get there on the business side, I also needed to maintain my health. And I wanted to maintain my friendships. And I wanted to maintain all these different areas of my life. And so I tend to set goals every time I have a trip. I travel to the United States a lot, and every time I set a trip that is a specific work goal, which is global is my baby, so there is very little division between where does global NLP training start and where does Nikki end. It's kind of hard to say because the company is also so much me. But I also know that I need to set health goals in order to help my business. I need to have good relationships and be an amazing friend and be an amazing person to the people who got my back inside this business like friends. I could not run my business without my amazing team of people that are working very hard to create this platform. And so I set goals on that. I want to maintain as much fun and happiness and flow. Really, flow is what I want to create all around me and everyone that I encounter. And that means that everything needs to run organically. And so other than a teacher, I need to take responsibility through goal setting to also be the platform builder, to also offer that shoulder, to also offer all those things. And I set goals around that. And that means that I don't necessarily set 5-year-long goals because I can't predict where I'll be 5 years from now. But I do set goals based on what is needed at this moment in time. So if a friend of mine gets sick, that becomes a goal. I need to make sure that I do everything that I can for this friend or that group of friends. And if I have to get on a flight to Minnesota and meanwhile have some of my team members take over, that's exactly what I'll do. And those are all mini goals in itself. Mm-hmm. And I like that way because it's I consistently meet my goals as well. But my goals change because I believe that, you know, I want to be a human being who's in evolution. And the only way that I can know what goals I'm going to be setting next year is that Nikki, that she's going to be next year. Because I'll be smarter and more evolved next year. So that HR question, who will you be 5 years from now? All I can say to that, I hope it's on a higher evolutionary platform than I am right now, and that's all I can say.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I hope you guys are starting to get a sense of the language, right, that's informing the goal setting, right? I want to be an inspiration. I want to be this kind of person. And as a result of this vision I have for the kind of beingness I want, these are the actions I need to take. It's really, it's almost like an embodiment exercise. And so oftentimes what we try to do is we try to set the goal out there and we're running towards the goal. You set the goal inside. The goal is embodied and embedded inside of you. It is an internal process that then through action becomes real. But too often we are sitting here and looking outside of ourselves and trying to jump into this thing that is the goal, as opposed to really taking it in and getting to know ourselves and what really matters, and then connecting to that narrative, that larger story that we truly want to be a part of. And quite often I find that the biggest mistake that people make is they're setting a goal based off of what they believe they should be doing, as opposed to who they really, really, really want to be, or what they believe needs to be born through them. Right? The goal itself is almost like a birthing process once you manifest it. There is all this potential inside of you that the goal that you're that you're working with, executing on, all of that is an opportunity for you to become that and to express that. So anyway, we have some people who have some amazing conversations and questions that we're going to start to take. And so we have, let's start with actually a tangible one. There was one that I saw about programs and technology. You know, I love that technology stuff in terms of using the resources to make your life even more amazing. So from Vanessa, we have, what do you find most useful to write, keep track of your goals, and what you need to achieve them? A notebook, an application, a template in Word, Excel, a program you bought? What allows you to organize and be an efficient project manager? So I have my personal fave right now, but I'll let you start, Nicole. What do you find is helpful?
First of all, I think that everybody should use whatever way works the best for them. It's all about flow, otherwise it just becomes another chore. I personally write down my goals, handwritten. Practically speaking, is because I also do that on the plane, and I don't like to have the technology when I'm trying to imagine what I want. But I like to write everything down. And recently, even though, as my students know, I always make them hallucinate that I'm an amazing artist who can draw really well, which I really me to work on is I've been trying to draw and mind map my goals now. And it's I just actually bought like some color pencils and stuff like that to really turn it into something really visual and fun that I could, literally would be proud to hang on a wall for the next 3 months and look at.
Okay, so for you, it's kind of like writing it down and mind mapping.
Yeah.
For me, every year I create kind of like an Uber life plan for my, for my life, and then I create another one for my business. But the way, and then that, let me back up. That master plan that gets created then actually connects to what I call my inspired action steps. And it's a process that I teach people how to do. And then from there, I actually create a theme. So my life itself has kind of a trajectory that I live through. But the technology that I'm currently on that is empowering it is free. It's called Trello, Trello, and it is one of the most amazing resources that I have to date, because what it does is it allows you to set up what's known as boards. And the boards can be health, or they can be your personal life, or they can be a project. So whenever I work with other people, and this also will speak to some of the questions we have about collaboration, whenever I create a new initiative, I create a Trello board to accompany it. You can do it in a notebook. You can say, okay, this notebook is all going to be connected to everything around my new business that I'm starting, or it can be around my health goals, or it can be around my financial goals. You basically have to see your goal once it's been that well-formed outcome, and you start to think about what are the things I needed to do to get there, or to work back before that and before that and before that. You can actually create a notebook that is strictly focused on that, or you can create, even on Evernote, you can create files and documents there. But I would say the more that you have a central repository where you can keep and track the progress that you're making, the more confident you're going to feel, the more inspired you're going to feel. And when you are creating something that is in collaboration with others, and you create, whether it's the board on Trello, both of you can start to hold each other accountable through your actions. Here's an example. I have a particular financial projection that I have with one particular goal in mind. And I've created what I call an inspired alliance to keep me on track. And so I have a board on Trello that I and my inspired alliance partner feed into, and we have a phone call every 3 weeks that keep us accountable to that goal. So again, it's one thing to set the goals and to visualize, but you also have to take action. Without action, nothing happens. And so you can definitely be feeling it inside, but you got to do something about it. So I recommend Trello for those who are technologically inclined, because you can access it on your computer as well as your iPhone, on your iPad, on your I have a Samsung now, so I access it on my Samsung. But find something that works for you, that you can feed all of your knowledge and your intention and your actions into, and that can also keep you accountable. Accountability is going to be your best friend as it relates to making your goals come true. So another question we have here is, how do we keep long-term goals burning bright and prevent them from fading away due to distraction? Okay, so Nicole, you want to address the distraction factor when it comes to goal setting or keeping on task?
Yeah, there's, in terms of some goals take like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and I set those goals in terms of what specifically I want, very strict, but the timing, I want to make sure that when I determine the time frames by which I complete something is not turning into a military boot camp where nothing else in my life can change. No other interests either. I'm not just talking problems, other interests, things like that. And so I kind of set goals in a way where I am very clear as to what specifically is going to happen in the next 3 months, but where my larger goals come in is that I have space to also pursue other interests and other goals. However, I will always keep connecting to that larger goal, because I find the moment that you stop connecting to your goal, that's when it goes away. So I can put on hold a goal for, let's say, a month or even 2 months, but I'm still in my mind connecting to it. that means that I will get back to it. And that's why it's so important to also keep that visual reminder there, is that when you unconsciously have your 5-year goal, then you'll never stop connecting to it. Yeah. No matter how many other things you wish to do or life comes in, it's still there in the background. And I also treat it as a true priority. If your 5-year goal is a true dream, then most things that you are distracted by are of lesser importance than your dream, right? And I saw, I don't remember who, but I think it's Ipolani who asked, what if somebody else has involvement in your goal and they're kind of messing with your goal? Very common thing. And here's the thing, is that I think it's very important to set your own goal, right? And where that you need to be able to initiate and maintain your own goal. It's very important. But other people, whether that being a husband, whether that being someone in the environment, you can assume there are people that are going to get in your way. It's just part of it. What you need to do is you need to tackle that other human being, whatever their presenting problem is. You need to tackle that one by one. And sometimes that could be, depending on the person, maybe you have to say, you know what, this is my dream, I'm going to go for it and explain that really well, or you need to persuade that person, or maybe you start your own bank account, or what it is that you need to do, you tackle every problem as it goes along, because your priority is your dream. I don't know what your take on that is, Ozzy, if there's other people involved in the dream.
Well, if other people are involved in the dream, there's many different ways in which you can approach it, right? You can say, okay, how do I enroll and invite them in by helping them see the beauty and the power and the dynamic benefit of this dream? So that's one strategy, is to really use your powers to help them understand and turn them into an ally. The other part is a strategy of neutralizing them, right? Which is all about you developing the attitudinal muscle to fully own your dream, so that no matter what anyone else is saying, doing, or presenting to you, you are so committed to that dream that they are not really an issue, So that's another strategy. I mean, there's tons of different strategies. Another one is really about being able to identify what their real role in it is. Like, for instance, some people are talking about, their husband or their wife not really being on board. And again, a lot of that is a question about, is it an opportunity to use your dream to help to transform the nature of that relationship? Because you'll find that sometimes if someone's not on board with you or with what you're up to, there's usually something else, another dynamic that's at play there. And so again, what I found in my journeys of coaching and supporting people, and also manifesting my own goals and dreams, is that the dream will teach you a lot about who you are, but it will also give you an opportunity to be more than you ever thought you could be. And so when it comes to collaboration, thinking about what is a unique and powerful dynamic way for me to be able to bring this dream and use it as an opportunity to collaborate with someone else, you will find that at some point, even if someone may not agree with where you're going, they will eventually fall by the wayside if you start to develop the strategy and think your way through and feel your way through what needs to be said and done in order for them just to even fall back a little bit. And that's usually done through conversation. And so I don't necessarily believe that you can oust someone out of the way, because that's not the way life works, right? It's more about how we flow and how we maneuver around those things. Again, being like water and being more fluid than it is about butting and creating resistance. So I would say whenever you find an area of resistance, figure out what needs to shift without necessarily saying that I need to put my dream down. But there's usually a way in which you can flow around it to still accomplish your aims and your goals in a way that actually is resonant and aligned with the larger issue or the larger opportunity. A lot of times it's like, because we believe that the dream has to manifest in a particular way, And the truth of the matter is, once you lock into that vision of what's possible, there's going to be 1,000 millions of ways in which you can approach and reach that goal. And the goal for you should be, how do I do it in a way that's exciting, motivating, and is releasing opportunity and possibility for all? It's usually when we get stuck in our myopic way of how that dream is supposed to come to fruition that actually creates tension and problems and negativity all around. So anyway, there's more questions being asked, but what I want to do is I do want to give the link to the gift that we're sharing. I hope you guys can see it. Nicole has graciously made a gift to all of you watching right now. It is a series of podcasts. Nicole, do you want to share what it is that you're giving to the audience today?
Right. We interviewed 10 former students, of which you're one, about how specifically they use NLP in their life, and it comes with tons of great advice how to, in terms of life strategies, how to set up a business, what it's like to overcome a phobia. There are 10 great podcasts with very entertaining people, even how to use NLP on a boat. And so these 10 people come from all over the world, and those 10 podcasts will be made available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have this amazing link. I think here's an example. I actually, during that time, was speaking about dreams and goals and possibilities, and then, years later, I ended up creating a day of activation that's focused on supporting people with their goals and dreams, World Dream Day. Now, that came from keeping it alive through language, So again, the power of language and the power of communication and how we talk about our goals to ourselves internally, as well as how we message and share that with the world, is so important, because that it creates accountability, and it also creates a bond with others. So I'm looking here, and I just want to answer one more question. We're actually a little bit over time, but we're going to answer one more question before we close officially for this evening. And the question is going to be from, I want to make sure it's from someone who hasn't posed. So from Isaiah Jones. How do you stay true to your goals even when things aren't turning out as planned? That's a really, really, really important question. You want to take it and then I'll close it out, Nicole?
When things don't go as planned, you know what? Life doesn't go as planned. So when I set goals, it's a 100% commitment, and I assume that plenty of times things are not going to go as planned. And I will move through those things one at a time. It's again that mountain, can't focus on the whole mountain. I will focus on things as they come. I also believe there are certain goals that I haven't met, and in the sense that the door closed. But I found that through that learning experience, I was actually able to set a bigger and even better goal that I could never have reached without the knowledge that I gained from that other goal that was just wasn't within my reach.
Yeah. It's so true. Again, the goal itself, there are always going to be things that you never could have imagined, right? It's a journey, and that's the beauty of it. I think too often we think that the goal has to come to life in a particular way, when in actuality it's about who you get to become as a result of reaching that goal, as a result of the journey towards reaching that goal. And whether or not that goal itself is reached, you yourself, if you are approaching it with the right intention, if you're truly basing it off of what really matters and your values, you will find that by the end and all the way through that journey, you will be refined and you will become that person that you've always wanted to be, because you've actually set upon a journey of really connecting to what matters to you. And when you're connected to what matters to you, life itself takes on a whole different meaning. And I really do look at our goals, our dreams, our ideas as gifts. They're almost like invitations. And so the way in which we set them and the way in which we approach them and go on that journey really has to take on the spirit of that gift. And the people that are showing up are also gifts, but sometimes we see them as enemies, and we see them as obstructions or obstacles on that journey. But if you actually start to say, wow, I have the opportunity to select what matters to me, and really get clear on that and feel into that and see it and experience it, and then the pleasure of being able to moonwalk, because you're going back. What did you need to do? What did you need to do? What did you need to do? Until you arrive at who you are today. And that journey of just moonwalking, I'm just inventing this right now, moonwalking from the future vision to the present and then being able to do it all again is just an amazing dance. So that being said, I do want to close this jam session. It has been amazing. Nicole, I just want to, is there anything you want to share with anyone on the call today?
Oh, that caught me off guard. Anything I want to share is...
Yes, anything you want to share as parting words or gifts.
I just want to say, the more you goal set, the more you reach goals, the more it becomes like exercising a muscle. And it's important to always stay in movement. Always stay in movement. If you don't move, you'll stay exactly where you're at. Unless you like where you're at. If you don't, if you like better than that, then you gotta stay in movement. Start setting goals and start going for your dreams and figure out how you can get there.
The goal is to become what I call a dream runner. Someone who has taken that idea out of your mind, it's in your hands and you are running with it. And as you move forward, other people are going to see you and say, oh my gosh, I can do that too. So when you see what becomes possible once you set that goal and you get in motion, you are not just transforming the quality of your life or your business or your community. You're actually impacting everyone who has the honor and the pleasure to hear about what you're up to. And you yourself are just an inspired human being, and we need more of that, right? People say, what does the world need? We need people who have come alive. And so your goal is that thing that is continuously breathing new life into you, and as you move it forward, you are really supporting the transformation of more than just your immediate goals. You're actually shifting everything out there in the world. So I thank you all. I can't wait. Again, the webinar jams happen every last Wednesday of the month. I hope you will join us for the next one. It's going to be a great time as always. I thank you, everyone who's listening and paying attention and taking this amazing information. And I thank you, Nicole, for sharing your knowledge and your experience. Now take these ideas and go and do something with them, okay? And until then, may your inner light continue to burn bright.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.